Welcome back. So we are still at the IoT Security Foundation Conference, and this is the last one of the day. By no means least, as this gentleman has travelled a very long distance, by far and away the most, from Australia. So it's a pleasure to have you here. It's a pleasure to get you on the podcast. So Matt, why don't you introduce yourself, give us a bit of a background on where you come from, why you're here, go from there.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so my name's Matt Tett. I'm the Managing Director of NX Test Lab, and I'm actually here representing the IoT Security Trust Mark and certification and labelling scheme. So I've obviously been involved with IoTSF for a number of years now, and it's just really interesting to follow it, and it's good to actually be able to get out in person again and finally travel overseas and use that passport again. So.
Yeah, let's touch on that actually, because off camera before Beth was coming in, you were telling me that you've kind of been let off the ball and chain, let off the leash, and you've just been mentally travelling. So
yes, so 4 weeks ago I left home and I went to the US for 3 weeks, so San Francisco, LA and Mexico. And then I got home for 6 days, and then I came over to here. I went to Paris for 3 days, and then arrived here yesterday, and I'm heading back to Australia on Sunday.
Staying there for a bit longer this time?
I actually live in Melbourne, and I land in Melbourne on Tuesday, and I have to be in Sydney on Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
So I'll literally get home, do my washing, get back to the airport, and head to Sydney for the night. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, but I have managed to stay awake most of the time with all the engagements and meetings and things that I've had. So it's been good. I'll try not to.
I was going to say, it doesn't seem to dampen your spirit, so fair enough. Okay, let's talk about it then. Let's go straight into it. So the IoT Security Trust Mark, what is it? Tell us a bit more about it. Tell us a bit more about the labelling.
Yep.
Give us an oversight.
So basically the IoT Security Trust Mark is an international certification and labelling scheme based on international standards. So it has a baseline set of requirements, which are currently built on good practice, which is the ETSI EN 303-645 European standard, but it also encompasses baseline using other standards, guidelines, codes. So as you know, DCMS here have their guides. Australian Government Home Affairs also has basically exactly the same guide, taking the top 3 out of the ETSI standard. So it's sort of a one-size-fits-all global federated framework for certifying IoT product cybersecurity and looking at vendors' claims. So yeah, we're just here evangelising the framework and getting it out while we're looking after the intellectual property and things like that.
So I think it's so important, because you can have one framework in one country, do exactly the same job in a different country, but got to recertify.
Yes.
Doesn't make any sense.
So we want to see global harmonisation, of course. We want to see a lot of the other schemes which are existing around the world grandfathering. So obviously most of them are based around the ETSI standard, and you don't really want the vendors having to comply multiple times in multiple jurisdictions. And that's why we've developed it as a framework. We're not the standards body, we're not the judges of what constitutes a good security baseline. We're just there executing the conformance against that, and as I said, validating the vendor's own security claims. So it's an interesting area. We've been doing it for over 15 years now, and people say IoT hasn't been around for 15 years, Matt, and I'm like, connected devices are connected devices. So
it's called something else.
So it's always been like that.
It's just basically rebranded.
Well, and ironically, we started here in the UK in 2006. So we were working with the Cabinet Office and Home Office, and we built security labelling certification scheme for them, and it ran really successfully for those 5 years. So it's sort of what goes around comes around. So it's good to be back here.
It seems to be going really well as well. I know John Moore was obviously the chap that introduced us, who we've already interviewed today, but he was really keen to get this going and get talking about it and spread the message. So I think you've done that. You've done that well. If there's anything else you want to add, please do. But I'm keen to delve into a little bit more of your mindset.
Yes. Yeah.
So IoT security, cybersecurity, whatever you want to look at it as. What's your opinion on it at the moment in terms of where we are at right now?
Okay, well, so you've probably opened a can of worms right here. Let me wax lyrical with my opinions. So no, basically at the end of the day, ICT security, traditional IT security as we know it, is broken. Passwords dead, privacy dead, gone. We can't make the same mistake with IoT. The vendors like to say, well, IoT's been here forever. Well, yeah, it has, but at the end of the day, the governments and the regulators have been setting policies or policy directions since 2018. 2019, the Five Eyes came out with a a statement of intent, and they expect the manufacturers to start lifting their game and incorporating security by design in their connected products. Now, whether the vendors have listened to that or not, or whether they're going to react once all the legislation comes through in Europe and Australia and UK, it's going to be another matter. But we've never seen anything like that with ICT security. We are now seeing it with IoT security. And so I think at the end of the day, we're all stakeholders. Ultimately, the consumer who's buying the IoT product, whether they're a critical national infrastructure provider with OT, IoT, or a mum and a dad with connected devices in their home, they ultimately have to be the beneficiary of that technology. They have to be the beneficiary of the security, which underpins both the safety and the privacy. And really, we've seen a number of breaches, a number of incidents. Yeah, you have GDPR, but at the end of the day, you want to see the vendors actually incorporating that security into their connected devices, not just trying to bolt it on afterwards. So we hear the concept security by design, safety by design, privacy by design. I came up with this thing the other day saying, well, let's bolt on security by design. You know, everyone's talking, well, the horse is bolted, it's gone. We can't just wholesale replace all our products. But the next generation of products can incorporate that. That's what I want to see. I think that's achievable.
Yeah, I mean, John, who we spoke to earlier on, he mentioned a really good concept. Got to try and remember it now, but it's basically starting from the bottom up to the top, which was build secure, buy secure, be secure.
Yes.
Did I get that right?
That's correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good concept. And just, I think it's a case of everybody needs to realise that they're involved in some way, shape or form, and they're a part of the whole security adventure.
Yes.
Let's call it that.
Yeah.
Even to the point where we had a conversation earlier on with a lady called Anna Marie, was talking about that even in your home, you've got to be conscious, albeit time consuming, but there's reasons behind it and the implications can be quite big. But if you're not using your smart telly, disconnect it. If you're not using your router or you're not home for a few days, turn it off. Just like little things like that. And I think it's bringing that
turn it off so you can't get the updates.
Well, yeah, exactly.
No, that's right. FailSafe is the key. You've got to fail safe, and I think that's one of the key things. But why put the onus back on the consumer? At the end of the day, it's not the consumer's responsibility. I buy a car, it has an airbag, it's there for my safety. I don't buy a car without an airbag and then go to an auto store or change the airbag to buy a different brand of airbag because I don't like the colour of the airbag that I had. I don't hit a wall, I don't flick a switch, I don't have to set something up every time I get in my car. But sure, sometimes I do have to put my seatbelt on, I have to physically put my seatbelt on, but other things, they should just be there. There's safety mechanisms, there's design, there's standards, there's international compliance. It isn't hard, it isn't rocket science unless it is Starlink or something like that. But in reality, it's up to the vendors. I'm not beating up vendors. I love vendors. We all need them. But really, their product design, their teams should be developing, integrating, having that from the get-go, and then they're not going to be panicking later on.
It's a fantastic analogy. And we can combine that with a conversation we had earlier on, which was one of the goals is to have the end user not have to worry about whatever it is they're using, knowing that it's secure already. And I suppose if you're buying a car, you're not worrying about that it's got an airbag or it hasn't got an airbag. Because
you'd be very disappointed
it can hurt
if
a
it
lot
didn't
more
work.
if you haven't. So I think we spoke about a couple of different things in terms of challenges, your thoughts on different things. Obviously, the things keep cropping back up in terms of cost, all that sort of stuff. If you personally, Matt, were to give advice to anyone listening, and this could just be your main advice that you want to give everybody, or it could be specific to preventing it, to dealing with it, or whatever it might be. If someone said to you, give me advice on IoT security right now, you're going to say,
look for the vendors which are making claims around their security. Prefer them, go with them, have a look at them, evaluate that security and make sure they're doing what they're saying, and avoid the ones that aren't. Because if they're not talking about it, they're probably not doing it.
That's a very valid point. I mean, the bit of research, if they aren't talking about it, they're either hiding something or just not conscious enough.
Well, consumers don't necessarily ask for it. They want functionality and they want price. And unfortunately, that comes at a cost, and a lot of times it's consumers' privacy or safety. So don't worry about security, it's the privacy and safety are the two key things we're looking for.
Links back to the whole buy secure thing, doesn't it? And just be wary of it. Perfect. Look, thank you so
Thank you.
much. Appreciate you flying all this way for this 1 6-minute video or
Yeah.
whatever this might be.
That's okay. It was a 15-minute presentation, so I fitted 15 years of experience into 15 minutes, so that was fine.
Let's wrap up. Obviously, flying to Australia is quite far away, so how can people find you? What's your social medias?
Probably LinkedIn is probably the best way. Just
Yep.
search for Matt Tett. That's T-E-T-T. I got all the T's in the world, so yeah, Matt Tett, and they'll find me there.
Perfect.
Cool. Thank
Pleasure.
you.
Pleasure to meet you.
Thank you so much.